Welcome to Practical Talk Time. I'm your host, Usha Kumar. Today I have with me a very talented astrologer, Elaine Kuzmeskus. She's here to talk about the Zodiac and how you see love in the Zodiac. Also, this is supposed to be a good special for our Valentine's Day. So please be sure to watch and have some fun. Please join me in welcoming Elaine. Elaine, welcome to the show.
Good to be on again. Thank you, Usha. It's nice to see you.
I'm so happy that you agreed to do this. You are a great medium and astrologer, and to have you come and take care of the little love side of life for people, this is wonderful that you can talk a little bit about what people can expect in that area of their life this year.
Good, thank you. Well, I think first I should explain the Zodiac a little bit, because we have 12 signs of the Zodiac, and the first sign is Aries. The key word for Aries is I am, and it's ruled by the Ram. And Aries individuals always are in competition. And in love, their key word is you're the best, and they like the best. And Aries women love diamonds, they love beautiful jewelry, and they are like to be well presented. The next sign is Taurus the bull. The key word for Taurus is I have, meaning I have good values, I have compassion, and they're very possessive. So your Taurus Valentine is very likely to say, be mine. And they love to treat the people they love with good food, sweets, and the luxuries of life. They like to pamper their people they love. And then the next we have Gemini, the twins. And the key word for Gemini is I think, and they like to think things over. So in love, Gemini is the type that likes to talk. So their Valentine would say, let's chat. And they would be very good on the internet, on chat rooms, and dating services. If you want to give your Gemini Valentine a present, they love to read, so give them a book on travel they would enjoy. And then next we have Cancer the crab. And you know, Cancer, I always call Cancer the moon side because it's ruled by the moon. And Cancer individuals, their key word is I feel.
I what?
Feel. They're very sensitive and feeling individuals. So Cancers, when they're in love, they like very much to let their feelings come out gently. They're a little bit shy. And very often, Cancers will often say, you make me feel so good, because feelings are important to Cancers. And if you have a Cancer Valentine, they also like a home-cooked meal. They like things for the home, and they very often have an interest in history. Cancers are often history buffs. Then we have Leo the lion, and the key word for Leo is I will. They're strong-willed, but you know, Leo is ruled by the sun, so they shine in love. And when it comes to giving your Leo Valentine a gift, give them gold, because Leo is the sign in the Zodiac that rules gold. And very often it could be a gold bracelet for a lady, or perhaps a gold watch or keychain for a gentleman. Then we have Virgo, and the key word for Virgo is I analyze. And I love the symbol of the Virgo. It's the Virgin lying on her side, and she's holding in her hand a sheath of grain. And that sheath of grain represents wisdom gleaned from experience. So the key word for Virgo is I analyze. And when it comes to love, they like to say, let's work together. And you're very often to meet your Virgo Valentine at the gym or at work. And when it comes to a Valentine gift, they love gadgets. They love things to do with work and the office. And very often they're very appreciative of small favors. They're gentle people. Then we have Libra, which is ruled by Venus. And Libra's key word is I balance. And Libras are very much relationship oriented. So if they made a Valentine, their Valentine would say, let's get together, because they like to do things together. They don't like to do things alone. I had a friend once who was a Libra, and she was married to an Aries, and her husband was a dentist, and she was a homemaker, and they liked to shop. Well, Aries are always in a hurry. So her husband was, she used to call him "Wrap It Up Mike." When they went shopping, no matter, he just picked the first thing and say, "Wrap it up." And being a Libra, she liked to analyze everything, think about it, take her time. And he would say it took forever for her to make a decision. But that's how Libras are. They like to be sure. When they do make a decision, it's usually very good. Libra ladies love jewelry. And the Libra Venus colors are pink and blue. They love those two colors. They like fine arts, and they have a refined sense of humor. Now, Scorpio is a very strong side. And you know, Scorpios often get a bad reputation. We were just talking about Mrs. Clinton's chart, how she's right on the cusp of Scorpio and Libra. So she's got the Scorpio side, but she's got the relationship side too. And people with a lot of planets in Scorpio, such as Hillary Clinton, they come across a bit brusque because they're very direct. So the Scorpio's Valentine would probably say, "Be mine or else," because they're very possessive of the people they love. And Scorpios is also the sign of recycling. So your Scorpio might like something to do with the recycling industry, something on sale, and they like something that has a tradition to it. They're very traditional.
I see.
The next sign is Sagittarius. Do you know any Sagittarius, Usha?
Oh, yes.
They're a lot of fun, aren't
Yes.
they? Mark Twain was a Sagittarius in Connecticut. Margaret Mead, the anthropologist, was a Sagittarius. And Sagittarius love sports. Joe DiMaggio was a great baseball player, was a Sagittarius. And they like the outdoors. And they often have a quality where they'll say, "Let's get going." They don't like to sit still, Sagittarius.
That's the thing, yes.
They like to keep
They are
going.
on the go. They keep doing things.
So if you have a Sagittarian Valentine, they like something sporty. If he or she likes to ski, get them ski tickets. If, on the other hand, they're the type of person like Steven Spielberg, who's a great visionary, get them movie tickets to an adventure. They love adventure and travel. Or better yet, give them airplane tickets because they like to go someplace new. The next sign is Capricorn. Capricorn is a very traditional sign. Their key word is interesting. It's I use, meaning I utilize. Capricorns are very practical. Benjamin Franklin was a Capricorn in the United States. And very often, Capricorns will think about things before they declare their love.
I see.
They don't want to waste your time. They don't want to waste their time.
So which dates would be
Capricorn is about December 20th to about January 20th. So we're in Capricorn now. And Capricorn individuals will say as a Valentine, "I'm saving all my love for you," because they love to save. Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, rules antiquities. So your Capricorn might like an antique. Antique bracelet, jewelry piece, unusual piece of jewelry, and they appreciate quality.
Elaine, I thought Cancerians would like antiques.
They like antiques for the home, and they like
I
history.
See. And this one for their personal use.
Yeah, Capricorns have a love of history as well. And then we find Aquarius. Aquarian people are for the new age. And the key word for Aquarius is I know. And you know, that's also a very interesting symbol. We have the water boy looking up at the stars, and he's got the water pitcher flowing out his shoulder. But you know, that's not water that's being distributed, it's wisdom.
Oh, really?
That's how Aquarians are. They like to give wisdom. And we've had wonderful Aquarius astrologers. My favorite is Evangeline Adams because she was the woman that legalized astrology. Do you know how astrology was legalized?
No. And was it done only recently?
It was done about maybe 80 years ago. But Evangeline Adams was a Boston astrologer, and she went to New York City to practice because she saw in her horoscope that she'd be more successful there. And Evangeline Adams was really a descendant of the presidents John Adams and John Quincy Adams. She was a very distinguished Boston citizen. And when she arrived at her hotel, she noticed right away that the horoscope of the hotel, and she noticed right away there could be a fire. So, of course, being a proper Bostonian, she alerted the owner, and she said, "You know, your chart of the horoscope of this hotel doesn't look good. There could be a fire." And he said, "That's nonsense." And sure enough, within a week, the hotel had a fire, and she was safely evacuated. But she made quite a reputation for herself. And she practiced astrology in New York City. And at the time, the practice was that if you wanted to practice openly, all you had to do was give the cop on the beat a few dollars and he'd ignore it, because astrology was against the law.
I see.
It was with fortune telling and was considered to be unlawful. Well, Evangeline Adams was an Aquarius, and Aquarius stand for knowledge. So she decided to prove to the judge that astrology was a science and not fortune telling. So she went before the judge and she said, what I do is a science. And she opened her ephemeris and she said, see these scientific tables? Anyone who studies astrology could read these tables and make predictions.
And those are the positions of planets, degrees at any time.
At any time in the ephemeris.
And I think most of the ephemeris nowadays, they are based off of NASA's calculations.
Yes, they're all based on computer-based, so they're very accurate.
But they, in the olden days, without NASA, they still had the way to calculate these.
Yes, but they would have to, it would be very time-consuming.
But they did. They still did in those years before NASA.
Absolutely.
But I think nowadays, all of the software and the programs use NASA's calculations.
Everybody can have their chart done.
So there's no denying that these are the positions of these heavenly bodies at any time. They are influencing one another. Right?
Yes, they're very accurate. And Evangeline Adams said, you know, astrology is a science. And the judge said, okay, madam, I'm going to give you a birth date and time and place of birth, and come back tomorrow and prove your science. So she went home, she calculated the horoscope.
Whose horoscope was that?
Well, she didn't know, but it was a young man.
She didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she found the position of the sun, which represents the basic self, the moon, the emotional side, Mercury, communications, Venus, the love life, and Mars, your energy. And she went before the judge and described the person whose chart she had. And she was so accurate, the judge said, you know, no one knows this young man better than you except for one person, me. He's my son. So he threw the case out, and that became a precedent which made astrology legal. So she was a very brave Aquarian. Well, Aquarians are wonderful in love because they like friendship and companionship. And then the last sign of the zodiac is Pisces, and the key word for Pisces is I believe. And they're very faithful in love. Elizabeth Barrett Browning, the poetess, was a Pisces, and very romantic. Elizabeth Taylor is a beautiful Pisces with the violet eyes and the beautiful hair. And Pisces will say they don't want anything but your love. They are the most unselfish sign of the zodiac.
I see.
But if you wanted to buy them a little gift, there are several things ruled by Pisces. They, for example, olives, treats are ruled by Pisces. The cinema, theater, they like movies. And they like any kind of romance novel. They are also quite psychic, so get them a book on dream interpretation. They would love that.
I see.
And that's something that would appeal to a Pisces.
That's the 12 signs. But I think we forgot to tell what gift we should get for the Aquarius.
Aquarius, they would like something to do with travel. They like to travel.
Oh, really?
They also like gadgets, and they love anything technical because they're ruled by Uranus.
Okay.
So computer gadgets appeal
And nowadays
to them.
you have lots of those.
Right, they love that.
To
Get them a Fitbit. They love that because it tells your steps per day.
Oh, wow.
Is a nice gift. And you know, every sign has a different gem that's associated with it. For example, Aries, the gem diamonds. So if you have an Aries individual and you can possibly afford it, diamonds are what they like. Now Taurus, it's emeralds because it's a Venus sign. Gemini, aquamarine. For Cancer's pearl or silver, because Cancer rules silver. And of course, Leo is gold, but the gem is always a ruby, the red. And then Virgo is ruled by Venus, so that would also be emerald. And you know, if you don't like emerald, then get aquamarine or turquoise. Get a shade of it. You don't have to stay with one. And then we have Libra, and Libra are the Venus colors. And very often, they like all kinds of fine jewelry is very important, and sapphire. Then we find Scorpios, again, garnet or rubies, but especially garnet they like. And then we find Sagittarius likes topaz, yellow topaz is being lucky for
Yellow
Sag.
topaz?
Yeah.
Okay.
And for Capricorn, they are like black onyx. And I used to think
Oh, I
black
didn't know that,
onyx.
yeah.
Wow, that's not the greatest gem, but black can actually be very attractive.
Oh, yes.
And it can certainly ground you, which is good. Aquarius like electric blue.
Oh,
They do. And they're a Uranus sign, so they like things that are unique. And Pisces, we're going back to a wonderful.
what do Aquarians wear? I mean, like,
Aquarians, they like all kinds of jewelry, and since they're ruled by Uranus, I'll give you some examples here. Aquarius like amethyst is what I would suggest for Aquarius.
I see.
Because they like the purple color. And my husband's an Aquarian.
Oh.
He's born the day after Valentine's Day, and I did buy him a nice amethyst paperweight. It doesn't always have to be jewelry. Sometimes that raw amethyst paperweight is very nice.
That's neat.
And he's a little intuitive. He likes to do dowsing. You know what dowsing is? You take a pendulum and you get it to go either right or left.
Yeah.
And if it goes, what you do in dowsing, you try to establish a code. Maybe back and forth for yes, circle for no.
Okay.
So since he likes to do dowsing, I got him an amethyst pendulum.
Oh.
Because
so you
Aquarians
can
like
use that then.
amethyst. Yes.
So does he use it for everyday decision making, or
No.
or just to know about people,
No, he just does it for fun.
or just for fun?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
So you
Yeah,
could do many aspects. If it's amethyst, it doesn't have to be jewelry. It could be cufflinks. It could be a pendulum. It could be a paperweight. Use your imagination.
So I'm sure people that are watching will know what gifts to get their loved ones
Right.
for this Valentine.
And Aquarians like to be surprised.
Oh,
They do. Aquarians are ruled by Uranus. They love surprises. They do.
you were saying something interesting about presidents
Yeah.
that are Aquarian.
Right. As a country, we have our moon, which represents the public, in the sign of Aquarius. And that means we are a democratic country, a country of the people, by the people, and for the people. So as a nation, we love Aquarians. And we've had 3 wonderful Aquarian presidents. But first, I think everyone, whenever they do a survey of the most favorite president, they always put Abraham Lincoln on the top. Because Abraham Lincoln was a very great humanitarian. He wasn't perfect. He wasn't always, he had a trouble with leadership sometimes. And he was the only president that wasn't elected by the majority. He was elected by 40% because the other party split. So he did get the most votes, but not the majority. And Abraham Lincoln didn't have the happiest marriage. Did you know that? He married an opposite, and his wife had quite a temper, and he was very even-tempered.
I see.
He was born February 12th, 1809, and he died April 15th, 1865. He grew up on the frontier. He was like a poor country lawyer. And sometimes things, when he became a senator from Illinois, things would get so heated, he'd have to actually open the back window and climb out the window to avoid his opponents. Because it was pretty rowdy in those days. But he did become the first president to free the slaves. I'll tell you something else about Abraham Lincoln that very few people know. Abraham Lincoln invited a medium to the White House.
He did? In those days? Okay, let's hear it.
And actually, it was his wife, Mary Todd Lincoln, who was interested in spiritualism.
Oh, I see.
And she invited a Connecticut medium by the name of Nettie Colburn Maynard.
But was that also unlawful in those days?
Well, I think they kept it very hush-hush, don't you?
Okay.
Because historians never mentioned it. Carl Sandburg says that Mrs. Lincoln was interested, but he never mentions Abraham Lincoln attending Santas. But he did.
What was the reason for summoning a
They
meeting?
had so much sadness, really.
Was it
don't
the children?
realize. They lost 2 of their children.
Yes,
It was very sad.
Then
And one
they were-
died in the White House, Willie. And of course, it's very sad to lose any child, but to be a public figure, it's very, very painful. So I think Lincoln went along with it because he knew how much his wife needed the comfort. But he also got a lot of advice from Nettie. Her name was Nettie Colburn. She later became Nettie Colburn Maynard. So, we don't always know. Everything isn't always in the history books. So he's my favorite president. The second Aquarian, which I think really made a tremendous change, was Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And Franklin Delano Roosevelt was a great president. because he came in during the Depression, a time of tremendous need, and he didn't have an easy life either. PBS recently did a series on the Roosevelts, and you can see how strained their marriage was, how horrible it was that he suffered from polio and really couldn't even walk. And yet he was so beloved, newspaper men never took pictures of him in his wheelchair or with his braces. They had so much respect for him, and I think that was wonderful. Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And that was so important at a time when men were out of work, people had to go to soup kitchens just to survive, and we had terrible poverty in the United States. But you know, he did a great thing. He was a worker. Even though he came from a very wealthy family, and he worked hard, he was a naval officer, a military man, and he really rolled up his sleeves and he tried to help the people. And I think he did the Youth Conservation Corps, which helped a lot of young people work. And you know, one of the things about the Conservation Corps people don't realize, but it was responsible, the laborers, for building the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh, really?
And this was in the 1930s. And I always like to emphasize the future is not set in stone. Because Edgar Cayce predicted there'd be a great earthquake in the 1930s in California, in San Francisco. And when it didn't come through, his followers said, well, Mr. Cayce, why didn't it come through? And the guides came through the trance medium and said, because of the Golden Gate Bridge. There was so much harmony, so much brotherly love, so much hard work and humanitarianism that it kept it from happening. So we have free will. I do believe all the prayers for peace and love we give in churches or mosques are heard by God. So that's important. The next Aquarian president is one of my favorites, Ronald Reagan. I'll tell you why. Because Ronald Reagan was unique. Now, if you are a Democrat, you'll probably say he was unique in the wrong way because he decentralized government. But he had a lot of unique qualities. And one of the things that people don't realize, but it came out after he left office, is his wife, Nancy Reagan, consulted an astrologer. She consulted the San Francisco astrologer Joan Quigley, who was a socialite and a friend of Nancy's. And the reason she did that is there was a prophecy that every 20 years a president would die in office. And it's true, Abraham Lincoln died, next one died, and so on, Woodrow Wilson, et cetera, et cetera. So the next person and then of course Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and the person elected in 1960, Jack Kennedy. So the next person that could possibly die in office as a result of this prophecy was her husband. But I like Nancy Reagan. She was not a fatalist. She rolled up her sleeve. She consulted the astrologer Joan Quigley, who said, you know what, if you give me Ronnie's chart, I will time the event so he will not be in harm's way. And you know, he almost died. There was an assassination attempt. But I do believe because of the astrology timing, he was not in the worst place at the worst time, and that saved his life.
Yeah, I heard there was a change in the place.
Yes, absolutely.
Even, where he took the oath.
Because of Joan Quigley. And Joan wrote a book, I don't like tell-all books, but I couldn't help but read it, and that is What Does Joan Say?, which talks about the advice she gave Mrs. Reagan.
Oh, really?
So we've had very unusual Aquarian presidents. They've all done unusual things, and depending on your politics.
They were well liked.
I think they were well liked. Yeah, especially because of the moon in Aquarius being very strong.
Doesn't matter what they did really in office, but they were
well liked.
Universally well liked,
Right, and so that was good. Now, it's interesting, one of the questions people always ask me is, what do you see for the future of the United States? And we talked about that a little bit on the last program, but I will say this, I feel that 2016 is going to be a lackluster year economically. We're going to see interest rates go up in the spring, just a little, tiny increments, and depending on what happens October 5th through October 29th, that will determine the election. I think it's going to be very close, less than 5%. So whether you are a Democrat or Republican, please get out and vote. Your vote will definitely count this year. I also would like to say that the United States chart starts to get a little stronger. And I do think by 2018, we're going to have some wonderful things. I think we're going to have a much better healthcare system. I think medicine is going to take off because of Neptune being in the sign of Pisces, which the last time Neptune was in Pisces, I always go by history, was during the Civil War. And it was also a time when there was great interest in the occult. Theosophy began, spiritualism began, New Thought. So people are going to begin to think of life a little bit differently, and I do feel that many people will come to believe that there is life beyond death, afterlife communications, and that we should be more charitable toward our brother. So I think there'll be a new humanitarianism coming in.
I think it's always good to have humanitarian
Absolutely.
Values.
I think organizations
They
like
help in keeping harmony.
Like the Red Cross, Doctors Without Borders, they don't care what your race or creed is, they're there to help.
Yeah.
Because that's coming to be very strong, I feel.
That's really good.
So that's a positive thing.
Although it's not a very resounding, wonderful year, it's at least going to be a year that we can live through.
Well, I think depending on your philosophy, every year is a great year. But I do feel that it's going to take a little while for the American people to adjust to changes in the economy. But we're very resilient.
Of economy,
yes,
I mean the personal economy for people.
Right. But
that hasn't gone up the way people hoped it would.
Right. But I think people will adjust. And Americans are very resilient. They really are. We love to work. We love family. We love home. And we're idealists.
That's lovely.
Very important.
That's good news for the year ahead.
Right, but I do think it's going to take about 2018 before these new programs come in. I'll tell you something else that many people don't realize.
Under 30 seconds.
Yeah, that America was founded on the principle of freedom, on the belief that we should be free of restriction and that we should work in such a way as to have a true democracy. And I think we really lead the world in that.
On that note, thank you very much, Elaine.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this show. If you want, you can write to practicaltalktime@yahoo.com.
I wanted to be more positive.